Hey, fight fans, welcome back to Carlo Prusa MMA. Today, I am joined with a familiar face of the show. He is a UFC veteran. He is now taking the gloves off. He's doing a little Gamebred bare knuckle action. Canadian mixed martial artist, the Body Snatcher. He is Mr. Jesse Ronson. Jesse, what's going on, brother?
Oh, what's up, man? Just sitting in my chair, petting my dog. I'm sore as fuck. It was a tough wrestling practice tonight. Yeah, week's almost over for me. Couple more sessions tomorrow, and then I'm done. Can finally rest.
Some big exciting news in the world revolving you this past week. You're making your return to the world of Gamebred MMA. You're taking on Curtis Millender, another former UFC vet. What was your reaction overall when Dean Toole called you and said, Curtis is next for you?
Uh I wasn't expecting Curtis. I thought he was at 85. I guess he's getting serious again, but it was 175 is what it said right away, and I was like 175, like. I'm a 170 dude. He's got 2 months. What's going on? Which just kind of lets me know that he's first time back at 170 in I don't know, a year or two or 2 years or whatever it is. So he's probably put on some size, and yeah, I was a little worried that he could make 170, but 5 less pounds for me to cut. I walk around 205 pounds, so makes my life a lot easier.
So your last time out when you made your debut was over in Orlando. Amazing performance. You took on Anthony Njokuani, finished him there in the second round, I believe.
Yeah, first
Amazing.
round, buddy.
First round. That's right. Correction. First round finish. If I remember correctly, you were laying some good strikes on him. You took him down. Great way to end it there on the mat. Walk me through that finishing sequence.
Yeah, just so you know, that was my sixth win in a row, sixth first round for the. I have a lisp now. Sixth first round finish in a row too. Um, so Anthony, world Muay Thai fighter, great, amazing striker. He's built for striking. He's got long legs, long arms, short torso. So he was taller than me, and he had like 6 inches reach on me. So it was just like I wouldn't mind striking with them. You know what I mean? I'm sure that's what the fans wanted, but last I checked, the fans don't pay my checks, and my checks get doubled when I win. So he kept throwing the same push kick at me over and over and over again. So it only took, I don't know, 2 or 3 times for me to get the timing and the distance to catch it. And as soon as I got a hold of him and picked him up and dropped him, I was like, wow, I am way stronger than this guy. I don't care how much he struggles. Like, I can put this guy away easy and have an easy night if I just keep grappling with this guy. And, so we mixed it up a little bit because, it was my first bare knuckle fight. I wanted to see what it was like to land a shot, bare knuckle. But ultimately, I knew after the first grappling exchange that that's the way it was going to go. And I can't remember what I got him down. I got him down, but then he managed to scramble up to the cage, and it made it look like I was going to strike, but then I took him back down. From there, he went for a Kimura, which is a big mistake with your back on the cage. Because when you're on the bottom in half guard and you go for a Kimura, essentially I just got to reach over and it becomes my Kimura. And he had nowhere to shrimp out. He had nowhere to go. So it was just instant death. Wouldn't say death, but instant I'm tearing your arm off. And that's pretty much what I went for with all my might. As soon as he grabbed it, I was like, thank you. And snatched up that Kimura. First round win.
Overall, what did you think of the transition from gloved MMA over to bare knuckle? Did you enjoy it? Did you like fighting without the gloves on?
Yes, I did. I like it a lot better because you can't, with the MMA gloves on, you have some safety in your hands, like knowing that you're not going to break your knuckles depending on how you throw. So people can't throw wild, like crazy wide looping overhands or ridiculous uppercuts or off angle shots because with no glove on, you could bust, a bone in your finger. You could break a knuckle. Like, it's very easy to shatter your hand, and the fight's over. If you don't have a hand to use and you got to go, it's first round, whatever. Like, if it's in the third round, sure, suck it up. But if you break it early, which most people do because that's when they're the fastest, they throw the hardest. Um, it's over for you. So I like that you have like guys like strikers like Anthony Njokuani. When I fought him, he had to be a little more reserved. Maybe not with his kicks, but with his hands, because like if you hit up here or anywhere hard with your hand not closed tight or even just off a little bit, it's over. All you need to do is a slight twist or whatever it is, and it's done. And you see that with a lot of strikers in bare knuckle MMA, at least. They're more reserved, so they don't throw randomly out in the air just for speed or for reads. They're being more careful and selective with their shots in case something happens. And so it plays up to my game and my standard of fighting very, very well. I'm a two-shot guy, one or two punches and a kick type thing. And I'm very accurate and very precise with what I do because, that's just what I like to do. I like to be a sniper like that. So, yeah, that's why I like the bare knuckle.
I think a lot of the fans who follow bare knuckle really don't understand, a lot from their perspective, it makes it easier to get knocked out. And sure, that could be true in cases. But I also think when you're wrestling, when you're grappling, when you're doing jiu-jitsu, without those gloves, do you feel like it's a whole new ballgame?
Oh, for sure. I've when I fought Natan Schultz in the PFL, he was literally sticking his fingers in my glove at my wrist to pull my arm across, and everyone's like, "Pull your arm back." I'm like, "I can't." His fingers are in my gloves, and he used it to judo toss me probably 6 or 7 times. It was annoying. And there's some people that they can trap the glove in their armpit. They can hold on to the glove and pull it down for defense. There ain't none of that with a bare hand. Like this motherfucker slides right in there real nice for a rear naked choke. It gets in between arms. It's up and down. And I have one of the things that I've been known for my entire life is a fucking gorilla-esque grip. So I don't really need a glove. Like it doesn't matter if you're slippery or not. Like the glove makes it harder for me to close my hand, but with the bare knuckle, like I can get a full tight on grip. Like I've made people tap just by squeezing their limbs or their hands before. That's how strong my grip is. Not toot my own horn, but yeah, you can ask anybody. My grip is fucking insane. But yeah, I just for grappling purposes and wrestling, just slide my hands in there. It's not that I have small hands; I've got pretty big hands, but it makes things a lot easier transitioning and also punching because I can pull out, drop that. I like it. Again, bare knuckle. I think I was built for this.
It's funny you just mentioned that. Do you feel like Gamebred is a platform, where you can kind of make the most of it and become one of the faces of this organization?
I would fucking absolutely love that. BKFC took off and they took off running. Everybody loves it. Everybody thinks it's like gangster, tough as shit. And it's like Gamebred Bare Knuckle MMA is the next step up. It's fucking MMA. It's everything, punching, kicking. There's like, you're not wearing nothing. It's a fucking street fight with a referee pretty much. And I can't wait for it to take off and, for Gamebred to start having pay-per-views and, the pay scale for fighters because it's getting so popular to take off and, we can make some big money off of that. And yeah, like at Gamebred, you see, like, what did they say? There's 14 or 15 UFC vets on the card. Whereas, like, you look at BKFC, they still got some crumb bums fighting on there, guys swinging wild, and they're gassing out in 30 seconds. It's like you're getting some quality level fights, like some, not quality level, but quality fights at Gamebred of some very experienced guys that even Jorge himself said, he's like, I don't care how old you are, as long as you fucking fight and bring fireworks. He's like, I know people can fight into their 40s or it doesn't matter. It's like, you're out there to bang it up and, bare knuckle MMA it's going to be exciting regardless of what happens. It's very difficult to be boring in bare knuckle anything, let alone bare knuckle MMA. So, yeah, it's going to only a matter of time before this platform takes off. And I would love to be a face of the company, with that, a win over Millender, I get the title shot next year and get to be the inaugural and the first 170 champ, which to my knowledge, I would be the first ever Canadian bare knuckle anything champion, the first and only bare knuckle, whether it be boxing or MMA, bare knuckle fucking champion in Canadian history. So that's a huge fire lit under my ass to beat Curtis and go on and snatch up that belt.
I may be wrong, but are you the only Canadian who's ever done Gamebred?
Yeah, I'm the only Canadian that's ever done bare knuckle MMA. Yeah, the first
What
and
have,
only.
what have some of the reactions been back home when you're telling people now that you're fighting without the gloves?
They say good. You should be. People that grew up with me, they know, but everybody around here says that this is what I should have been doing the whole time. Like when bare knuckle boxing came out, they said you should do that because they have like there's two types of fighters in bare knuckle boxing. There's the fucking idiots that just swing wild and, like I said, gas out in 30 seconds or break their hands, or there's the really, really technical guys, which I could easily pick apart, overpower, and smash down. So now that we got bare knuckle MMA, it's now I can use all of my limbs, and everybody was just like, you should do that. Even when Gamebred had their first show, they're like, yo, you should consider getting into Gamebred. And I tried and I tried and I tried. And finally, my manager, Danny Rubenstein, got me on the last one. But it's not for lack of trying that we didn't. And yeah, now I'm just happy to be here and got to make a fucking statement November 15th. And, hopefully it'll be hockey's days are numbered in Canada when it comes to what people are tuning into.
It's crazy to see how mixed martial arts evolved over the years. Obviously, you've been doing this for a long time. You know more than anything. The sport 15, 20 years ago was nowhere as where it was today. Some places it was banned. It was only legalized in Ontario. I think 2013 was the date. New York, 2015. Actually, Ontario was 2011. It was even earlier. At one time, this was like barbaric. It was like criminal activity. People didn't really know what it was. During the early days, did you ever envision a time where we'd have a sanctioned bare knuckle MMA organization?
No, that's just they moved quickly from like UFC back in the day where it was like no rules. They implemented rules, I think, the very next UFC, and then it's like every time there was a UFC, they implemented more rules, and then I think it was UFC 4 where they finally had 4 or 5 where they finally had like some form of MMA glove or leather glove because they just needed. You got to add more protection, in order to pass legislation and safety to ensure that it's safe and, people won't die. You add rules, you add protection. It's like, well, I'm glad that people understand that, less people are dying in MMA than boxing. And it's like, we're taking it a step back. We're getting more raw here. We're taking away the gloves. I love it because it's fighting is fighting. You don't need gloves or anything like that. So I'm just glad people are more understanding of bare knuckle not just bare knuckle, but fighting in general. People are just more understanding instead of just like, boxing being the only thing going around. So,
when you first began this journey years ago, what was the MMA scene like in Canada and Ontario? Was it tough to find fights?
Oh yeah. I don't even think there was MMA in Ontario when I first started. We had to go to Quebec. And then, I fought out east. My first 5 fights or 6 fights. Yeah, my first six fights were out of Ontario because MMA was banned in Ontario until they I don't know what, I can't remember. Obviously they had to pass it, but yeah, there was nothing going on, and everybody was training MMA. I mean, we had UFC fighters at my gym. At one point there was 6 of us. In a city of London, Ontario, 350,000 people. That's it, 350,000. Like that's less than half a million like people. We had 6 or 7 UFC fighters in one gym in a small town at one point. So MMA was big in London, still not as big as the fucking London Knights or hockey, but it was huge back then. And then people started retiring and whatever else. So now it's like it's almost non-existent and hockey's fully taken over. But I bring back a title, like I said, things could change.
I think a huge moment for MMA in Canada, especially MMA in Ontario. Obviously, UFC 129, 2011, you had George St. Pierre, Jake Shields. Do you think that did a lot to grow the sport in Ontario and Canada?
100%. It did a lot to grow the sport in general. That was they set a record for the most people in attendance for an MMA fight ever at like 40,000 people. So that was in the record. Obviously, they've beaten that since then, but that is in the record books for like highest gate. Most people attending an MMA show here in Toronto, which is 2 hours down the road. It made a huge deal because Mark Hominick, he's still at my gym. He's one of the owners. He fought for the title. George St. Pierre defended his title. It was a huge night, a huge success for MMA in Canada or in Ontario, let alone in Canada that night. So it definitely played a huge part, and it showed that Canada does have a fan base. If you give them something to cheer for, and it's like, well, we haven't really had anything to cheer for in a little while. Like the media or whatever, the coverage on the PFL did a very fucking good job of sweeping Olivier Aubin-Mercier's 2-time, like his wins in the PFL where he won the tournament. I guess it's not really a championship. You're a tournament winner, but to me, he's the 55 champ in the PFL 2 years in a row. They did a very good job of sweeping that. Like there's no coverage on it anywhere in Canada, where it's like when George St. Pierre was winning, the title is everywhere. There's every fucking newsstand you went to, every website had it on there, and it's like they were making it a big deal. So it's like there hasn't been anything big in Canada since George St. Pierre won the title. Because, like I said, they swept it under the rug for Olivier, and other than that, Canada's not winning anything hockey related except for basketball in 2020. So, we gotta do something to bring it back. Since Olivier retired, Dufour's put up a good fight. I'm coming back. We got Mike Malott in the UFC, Series City. We got Jazz. We got a few people in the UFC making some waves. Wait for Mandel Nallo. He was supposed to fight on the last card, but he got held up at the airport. We're going to be making some waves still. Like I said, we're coming for you, hockey.
I love talking to fighters who've been at this for a very long time because there's something in common with a lot of them. Back in the day, the regional scene used to be kind of like the wild, wild west. When you first started getting into this, do you have any horror stories of maybe fighting outside, at bars, at clubs, mystery opponents, sketchy medicals? Do you have anything crazy you went through?
No, that never since nothing like that. Since I was an amateur, it's like I would drive to Detroit or anywhere in the States, and it was just you just drove up there being like, hey, I want to fight today because they had shows. And I'm like, okay, cool. What's your name? What's your weight? What's your experience? Everybody would always lie except for the weight you would weigh in. And then they're like, okay, well, we got this guy and this guy and this guy. You guys which one of you guys wants to fight? Everybody, because my face, everybody always chose me. They're like, I want that guy. I'm like, well, since these three guys want you, who do you want? So it's like I usually got my pick of the litter. I'm like, sometimes I had to fight twice in one night because that's just how it went. It was cool. But as for shady medicals, no, I haven't run into anything like that. I've been in some pretty big dives, like on the East Coast and in Moncton, New Brunswick. There's some bad hotels. The Howard Johnson in Winnipeg, when I fought for CFC, it was a native rehab clinic on the main floor. And then it was the hotel, and it was the shittiest hotel, one of the shittiest hotels I've ever been in. Like I walk out front, there's broken vodka bottles, syringes, native people ODing or like getting sick, fighting in the lobby. In the middle of the night, like I'm getting woken up at 3 a.m. because there's a full-on brawl in the hallway, and I'm looking over at my corner like, yo, did you lock the door? And he's like, I thought hotel doors lock themselves. I'm like, I don't know, this place is pretty suspect. But yeah, other than that, no, there's no bar fights. Nothing. Like I don't like to drink after my fight, so I don't go out. I like to, recover because I'm spent my whole camp cutting weight, and then I dehydrate, which is essentially attempting suicide via dehydration and hoping I don't succeed so I can just, lose water and stay alive. So it's like with the dehydration and the fighting, afterwards, I usually wait a couple of days, but yeah, so there's no bar stories for me after fights. No crazy fighting in a bar other than, like I said, when I was an amateur, I fought in a few bars and weird restaurants and weird places all over Canada and the US. But as a pro, no, nothing.
You find restaurants?
Yeah, they're like bar restaurants. So it's like a bar or a restaurant during the day and then a bar at night.
Crazy. So we actually kind of share a first in ways. Your first UFC fight was the first ever UFC fight I went to in attendance. UFC 165.
Yeah.
Obviously an amazing night. When you look back at it, in my opinion, I'm biased, but the greatest UFC fight ever. John Jones, Gustafsson won. I'll say it forever. I don't care.
That was an amazing fight.
It really was. Habib was on that card. Aubin Mercier was on that card.
No, he wasn't.
Thompson. He wasn't? No, Mitch Gagnon was on that card. I'm getting
Mitch Gagnon. I was on it. Mitch Gagnon was on it. John McDessie, Mike Ricci, Chris Clements, Francis Carmon was on it. You're right. Khabib fought Pat Healy. Khabib was in my change room. John Jones was on it. Gustafsson. That was a great fight. Jones and Gustafsson. To be honest, I thought Gustafsson won that fight, and I will defend that to this day. I thought Gustafsson won that fight, even though John Jones his hotel room was beside mine, and he was in the same change room as me. Great guy, super nice, nicer than his cornerman. I thought Gustafsson won that fight.
Do you remember where you were when you got the phone call that you were going to find the UFC for the first time?
Yeah, I was at my mom's house in her front living room, and I had just eaten, I can't remember what it was, but I had eaten something disgusting. And my manager at the time was Robert Rivetta, and he called me up, and he said, "Hey, Jesse, how you feeling?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm good, man. I'm full. I can't remember what I ate." But he goes, "Oh, what do you weigh?" And I'm like, "Right now." And I stepped on the scale, like I stripped down and I stepped on the scale. I was 186 and a half. I'm like 186 and a half. And he goes, "Do you think you could make 155 in a month?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I can try. I've never lost 31 pounds in, 30 days before." I'm like, "Depending on how much money it is." And he goes, "It's the most money you've ever made to this point." And I'm like, "Oh, really?" I'm like, "Well, because I had just fought Shane Campbell and I think it made like $6,000 or something like that." I'm like, "More than Shane?" He's like, "Double." He's like, "Double and then some." I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, "How much are they offering?" And he told me that back then the UFC contract was 8 and 8. He goes, 8,000 plus 8,000. I'm like, "Really? Who the fuck's paying that?" And he goes, "UFC, buddy, you're gonna fight Toronto September, I think it was 23rd. It's like September 23rd versus Michelle Prezero. I don't give a fuck who I'm fighting. You're like, "Are you serious?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm emailing you the contract right now. Don't say anything." He's like, "You have to sign it and whatever else." And then I started tearing up because it was a dream of mine. And my mom's like, "What the fuck's going on? Like, did somebody die?" And I'm like, "No, no, no. I just got signed to the UFC." And it's like, I just lost it. And yeah, settle down, boss. Sorry, Mike. German Shepherd's crying here.
Obviously you had to run the UFC. It didn't go the way you were hoping.
I had two runs in the fucking UFC and they didn't go the way I wanted. Fuck. Sorry.
What did you take away from that experience? Do you have anything that you grew from or, take away that's helped you find the success that you've been having recently?
Yeah. The first time I wasn't ready as a complete mixed martial artist. I was a very good striker. I was very athletic. I could handle my own in wrestling and grappling, but it was a completely different level. It's like playing a video game on hard and then you got to go like Halo, you play it on hard and then you go to legendary. It was just a different level, like especially Michelle Prazeres, who was a fucking juiced up massive 155er at 17-1. He was like 4th-degree black belt. I've never seen anybody like that big and that strong, but he faded hard, but it was like still it was just another level of just competition in general. And I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't mature enough as an MMA fighter the first time around. And I wasn't mentally ready for it. It's something that I always wanted. Even I was like 27 or 28, which is still mature enough for a guy, but it's like I just wasn't there as an athlete, and I wasn't there mentally as a man yet to understand what I was getting into. And then the second time around, when I got to the UFC, I was a more complete mixed martial artist. I felt more comfortable with my skills. Even still, I had some mental immaturity there. It was like I wanted it, but I felt like anytime I was in there, it's like I didn't deserve it. It was like, what have I done to deserve this? It was very, very weird. And yeah, when I got released from the UFC, all of I've spoken to mental coaches, I've read a bunch of books and everything else, and everything that they said finally clicked for me when I was done. Like literally when I was done. And my last two fights in the UFC were horrible versus Joaquim Silva and Garcia. That was just, to be honest, I should have fought at 170 back then because I was 204 pounds when I got the call to fight Garcia. So I literally spent an entire training camp cutting weight, and I went in there hurt. I had an inverted C2. I had a neck shear, and my pelvis was elevated, anterior rotated forward. And then again, I spent the entire training camp cutting weight, and I felt like shit. And then same thing with Joaquim Silva. I was 206. I couldn't help it. My body was just getting up there, and then I spent an entire training camp cutting weight for him. Went in there fucking with a bulging disc in my L spine. So it's like I had very limited mobility because cutting all that weight was just causing injuries. And both fights 3 weeks before my fight, everybody's like, "Dude, you're so fucking sharp. You're so strong, man. You're ready. You could fight today. What's your weight at?" And I'm like, 181 pounds. They're like, "Oh man, and I still have 3 weeks and I can't take any time off because I need to train hard 2 or 3 times a day to burn the calories, to lose the weight, to get close to 155. So it was at that point where I was like, you know what, fucking, I'm moving up to 170. Like if I'm this sharp and this strong 3 weeks out, there's no reason why. And I'm handling 70 pounders in the gym. There's no reason why. But yeah, both times in the UFC, The first time helped me level up my grappling game to the rest of my game. And the second time, even though I was older, and I think I'm too old to get back there now, but it definitely helped level up my mental game when I got out. So it's like now everything's all connected and I feel better than ever. Physically, mentally, I'm training smarter. I'm training better. I'm not afraid to take a day off anymore. I know what bothers me and what doesn't bother me, what irks me and what doesn't, and what to avoid, what not to avoid, and to keep control of what I can control.
Did you ever think there'd come a time where, you can make a living in fighting, you can get good money in an organization that's not the UFC?
Yeah. So in 2018, when I won the double championship in TKO, I beat Michael Dufour for the title at 170, and I had a partially torn hamstring. I went 5 rounds with this guy on one leg, and then I got the short notice call for the UFC in 2018. December, I was supposed to fight Diego Ferreira, and I couldn't make the weight. I don't know why I said yes. My hamstring was still fucked up, but it's the UFC. When they call, you say yes. Because I remember telling my manager, being like, dude, my leg's still fucked up and I'm heavy as shit. And he goes, well, give it a shot, because it's like, this is it. If you tell them no, they might just fucking be like, why the fuck's this guy saying no? I don't know. But yeah, I couldn't make the weight, and I tried to ask for a catch weight, and that's when they took my contract away. But after that, Danny talked to the PFL, and that was like the second year where they had the $1 million tournament. And I was like, $1 million fucking dollars. And they're like, no, that's just $1 million in bonus money, like tournament money. You still get your show and win plus tournament money, show and win plus tournament money, show and win plus tournament money. I'm like, holy shit. Like, there's actually a possibility that I could make a living, like a very comfortable living doing this. And yeah, that didn't pan out. Got back to the UFC. The possibility is still there, because I won a bonus with Dalby, and yeah, it's like, it makes life a lot easier when you make that kind of money. Like, you make 75,000 US dollars, you convert that over to Canadian, that's like 100 and something thousand Canadian. That's a year's, more than a year's worth. I lived off that fucking money from the Dalby fight for 3 years. So yeah, it's like, just, finding an organization that can pay is one thing. And yeah, it's a very, very possible thing. Now, it's like, to make enough money to retire after you're done fighting, that's a different story. That you got to be making in the millions. And I'm not there yet. Someday, knock on wood, maybe someday I'll be making millions, but time's running short because I'm getting older. I'll be 39 at the end of this year, and I don't know how long this window or this door is going to stay open. Yeah, I think I'm making enough money now that I can make a living off of it, but what do I do when I'm done if I don't have that retirement money?
So many people watch mixed martial arts. So many people watch UFC in this day and age. They think they understand it, but I really don't think they do. They see the John Joneses, they see the Pereiras, the Adesanya's, all the big names, and they're like, what a great life. Oh my gosh, to be a fighter, this is incredible. Little do they know, to battle it out on the regional scene, to fight on smaller shows, the money, you're not making millions of dollars. As you attested, you didn't make $1 million in the UFC. Some guys have to do the whole 9-to-5 job. They have kids, they have wives, they have to pay to train, they have to get punched in the face. Obviously, you have promotions like Gamebred, who's paying a lot more than the guys on the regional scene. PFL paying a lot more than guys on the regional scene. But what has made you stick through this all these years? What has made you never want to give up on this?
Because I can't fucking sing or dance, and it sure as hell beats working every day. I have no choice. I'm all my eggs in one basket kind of guy. I had an opportunity to go to college when I was younger, and I dropped out because I got on a Team Canada kickboxing, and that was my sign to go, yo, you can do something with this fight stuff. And I've been all in ever since. I just never give up. I just keep pushing and pushing, and everybody's like, you are the fucking, if perseverance was a person, it's Jesse Ronson, the guy that just never gives up and keeps striving. It's like, why? I know so many other people that have given up and, gotten jobs. They've gotten good jobs, and they're happy, and they don't look back. They're like, you know what? I wish I started working at this job before I started fighting, yada, yada, yada. For me, it's just like I said, I need to make as much money, or I need to make a name for myself so that when I'm done fighting, I can, fall back on my name and become a coach or do something in that area. Because like I said, I gave up my chance at an education and a good job, and I don't have any fucking work experience other than fighting and training people. So, it's like, what do you put on your resume? all the fucking titles that I've won that people don't give a shit about. You know, my numerous belts, my black belt, fucking graduation certificate. I don't know what the hell it is, like diploma. It's like, what is that? What I put on a resume to get a job? And it's like, yeah, you get the 1%, less than 1% of guys like Connors, the Joneses, the Pereiras that make enough money, or even Masvidal. It took him until his, I think it was his fight with Usman, where he made his, he got his nut. He made his nest egg where he's like, I want $5 million. If I got $5 million, I'd be set for life. I already have it. Like I can plan that out. I can live off $5 million for the rest of my fucking life. But it took him like 50 fights to get there in that one opportunity. So it's like, it's very rare that you find people that can make a living off of fighting. I know people that fight and work full time or even part time. It's not an easy life. That's why I made that video on Instagram where it's like, oh, do you have any advice for young fighters or people that want to be a fighter? I'm like, yeah, stay in school, get an education, make sure you can have a job when you're done, because fighting doesn't pay. I'm just a stubborn cunt, and I can't stop fighting. It's in my gene. It's like a light switch. I have literally there's no filter. Like, I punched my best friend in the fucking face because he deserved it. You know what I mean? I fought friends. I fought anybody. It's like, I don't have to get amped up. I don't have to get angry to get into a fight. What really fucks me up with fighting is like knowing that I'm fighting somebody for 8 weeks and then having to think about this guy day in, day out. And it's like, I've overthought it. I've overanalyzed it. I've overdid everything. And I kind of check out fight night. That was my issue with the UFC. And it's like, so getting out of the UFC helped me deal with that. So it's like, you know, I don't have to think about Curtis Millender. I think about him. I got my coaches thinking about him, telling me what they want. And it's like, yeah, I know I'm fighting him, but I'm not going to watch any tape. I'm not going to do anything about it. If somebody talks to me about him, I'll be like, yeah, beating him gets me a title shot. I don't have to go into detail because I don't want to spend all my time thinking about fucking Curtis Millender, because again, it's like, it gets boring. You get tired of it. And then when it comes time to do it, you've thought of everything possible and you're like, what the fuck am I going to do? Because you've thought about it a trillion billion fucking times and you're like, oh shit. And it's like, all right, I thought about this in my head. I thought about this in my head. I thought about this in my head. And it's like, you have a hard time pulling the trigger because you have just too many fucking thoughts, or you're just too brain dead to do it.
You know, speaking of Curtis, what do you think of him as an opponent?
He's a big dude, man. Fuck me, is he a big guy? 6'2", 78-inch reach. Holy fuck. I'm like, why do they do that to me? You know, they gave me Anthony Noah Jaquani, 6 foot, like 76-inch reach. They keep giving me tall freaks of nature strikers. So it's like, what do I think of that? I'm like, I'm going to be biting down on that mouthpiece and I'm going to be fucking swinging for the fences. Like, I watched his fights with, in the PFL, his last couple of fights at 170. And, you know, he's moving well. He didn't have much ground defense, but, you know, moving well, being slick. And then all of a sudden he moved up to 185. He had a fight at 185. I'm like, holy shit, this guy, he put on some size. I'm wondering if he's going to make weight at 175. I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, that's how it was like looking at two different people. So it's like, I feel like it's a David versus Goliath matchup. And yeah, I'm, like I said, I can't stay at his range and I can't stay at the outside because then he'll just chew me up. So it's like, I got to be inside this fucking guy's face, in his guts, for as long as possible. It's like, I know how tough and durable I am, and I know how strong I am. So it's like I said, I'm going to be in his face, pressuring him. And it's like, if he grabs a hold of me, you know, I hope he's been working his jiu-jitsu, because I'm going to take him down and I'm going to beat him up and rough him up. I have no issues with that. I have great muscular endurance, and, you know, tall guys want to grab me. It's, you know, their body's wide open, and they call me the Body Snatcher for a reason. But yeah, this is going to be a tough fight for me. This is, like I said, there's a lot on the line, and I got a huge fire lit under my ass. And it's like, I know it's going to come down to biting down on that mouthpiece and being willing to stay in this guy's fucking face in the danger zone for 15 minutes, in the fire with my foot on the gas. So it's like, if he's not coming in shape, it's going to be a short night for him, because I'm coming in the best fucking shape of my life. Like, this is, like I said, I got so many people coming in to help me and wanting to help me and get me going. And it's insane. Like, you're going to see the best Jesse Ronson November 15th, a guy that, you know, this is it for me. You know, there is no, like, I can only go this way, because a loss means nothing. I'm done. And like I said, I don't have anything to fall back on other than fighting. So I have to win. So I'm fucking going balls out. Even if I got to take a fucking bank loan to fund my training, I'm going to do it because this is it for me. I know what's presented to me with a win, and I want that more than fucking anything. So I'm going to be in this guy's fucking face. I'll take punches, knees, kicks. I don't give a shit. I'm not going down. It's both of us. Both of us are going to be fucking hurt regardless of what happens because of the way that I'm going to have to take this fight.
I think one of Jorge Masvidal's favorite words is fireworks. When I see this fight, I see fireworks. Do you see fireworks as well?
100%. Curtis, likes to lean back and play safe. Why wouldn't he? He's 6'2" with a 78-inch reach. The only thing that makes him susceptible to is big bombs or heavy leg kicks and big bombs like the Hendo H bomb, touch the inside, big looping overhand, and I crash at him. He can either run away or he can grab me. It's like, what's going to happen? And it's like, I do my best work in the fucking pocket. I am a toe-to-toe fighter with hands. You know what I mean? So it's like, if he wants to stand toe-to-toe and try it, like, I'll do it. Like, hey, Curtis, right now, we can have an unsigned agreement. I will put my fucking lead foot, my toes on your toes, or you can stand on my foot. I don't fucking care. Toe-to-toe, hands, and I bet you I win. Like, I am so confident in my toe-to-toe boxing skills. It's fucking ridiculous. But, yeah, with a fighter like him and a fighter like me, there's the physical differences. In order for me to win, I have to make it fireworks. I have to be in his face. I have to pressure like Justin Gaethje versus James Vick, or else I'm just going to get fucking punched and beat up all fucking night for 15 minutes. And I'm not about that. If I'm going to get punched in the face, I want to give it back at least twice as much.
This is really turning up to be a snack card. The whole card's not released yet, but we do have some names. There's a lot of UFC vets. I've kind of lost count on it. Obviously,
14.
Davis, 14. Wow. Sakara's on there. Weems, Knight, yourself, Millender, Alex Nicholson, Kevin Lee is apparently fighting on this card. Does that excite you to be able to share the stage with, an absolute stacked platform?
Always. I love it. The bigger the names on the card, the more attention it gets. And I said, like, the more attention it gets, the more it gets out there, and the more money it makes. And the more money it makes, the more money we can make. So I'm all about it. You know what I mean? And, like I said, I'm on a card with a bunch of professionals. So it's not like it's going to be amateur hour of people being fucking dickheads and shit. Except for maybe, Kevin Lee, because he's just very difficult to deal with from what I've seen in every interview of him, unless he's grown up and humbled himself. But even still, he brings a lot of attention. He's got a huge fucking fan base because the guy goes out there and fights. So he's putting guys away or he's getting put away, man. He understands how fighting works. And yeah, so I can't wait for this card to happen. There's a lot of potentials, Randy Costa fighting for the title. I like Randy Costa for that fight. I hope he wins. Chase Sherman's fighting. He wins. He could get a shot at the title, the heavyweight title. And I'm a fan of Chase Sherman. My fight, obviously, the winner of that gets a shot at the title. Maybe Kevin Lee and the winner of his fight would get the next shot down the line. So it'd be like a first title defense for whoever wins it next year. Would be Kevin Lee or whoever if they stick around. There's so many possibilities with this show, and yeah, I hear a lot of good things about Biloxi, Mississippi, so I can't wait for it.
I don't want you thinking too much in the future. Obviously, Millender's at hand. You got to handle him first. You fought Kevin Lee before in the UFC. Has it maybe come in your head a potential rematch with the gloves off?
Yeah, like I said, I handle Millender. I win that title. If Kevin Lee's still around and he's on a win streak, let's set it up. Like, he's the reason why I lost my dream in the first place. Like I said, I got there. And I said, I just wasn't ready as a mixed martial artist or mentally as a man to handle the UFC at the time. And he was a young, strong, athletic dude. And, yeah, I guess he just wanted it more than me. I don't know. I lost a split decision to him. What can I say? I mean, I've watched that fight a million times in my head, and it's one of those fights where I wish I could get back, but it already happened, and there's nothing I can do. But yeah, a rematch with the gloves off, later on down the road, if it's there, it's there. I just hope it generates enough money for me and for him and for the company that everybody's happy when it happens.
I have some good news for you. Some news that you might really like here. Obviously, when you were fighting in March, you competed with the Maple Leafs. The Maple Leafs are not playing on November the 15th. Does that mean Ontario is going to watch the Body Snatcher?
To be honest, I think so. They released the poster of me and Curtis Millender today, and it's already got like 5 times more likes and views than the one with me and Anthony No and Jaquani. So, and I know a lot of people that were like, "Oh yeah, sorry, bro, Leaf Nation," or I had it on 2 TVs, yada yada yada. So, if there's no hockey to compete, and it would only make sense that people would tune in, and especially it's a Friday. You know what I mean? What else are you doing on a Friday night? Watch some fucking bare knuckle MMA. Let's go support your boy.
All right, Jess, in the perfect world, my friend, what is the outcome when you take on Mr. Curtis Millender November the 15th in Biloxi, Mississippi?
7 wins in a row, 7 first-round finishes.
Man, I'm excited to watch you fight, dude. It's been a while since we've seen a Gamebred show. I'm so happy they announced one. I think this is an absolute stacked card. And, one thing, I noticed after you beat Anthony and Joe Kawani in Orlando, you came out with this mint, white suit. Very top suit game. Could that make an appearance after the Biloxi card?
I have a different suit that I'm going to wear, and so you'll see me. I'll always wear a suit. If you're gonna be a professional, look like a professional. Be a professional. You know what I mean? We don't have uniforms or outfits, but it's like we're all professional athletes, so it's might as well. If everybody, basketball players, hockey players, everybody else can wear a suit before they perform. If you're professional, you can wear a suit and you can act like a professional. So I believe that, and that's, I do believe Mark Hominick was one of the first guys to ever wear. So he's the reason why George St. Pierre wears suits, because Mark used to wear them to TKO, because that's something that his dad instilled in him. If you're going to be a professional, look like a professional. So, the suits, it just feels good. You look good, you feel good, you do great. So I will be wearing a suit. I have 5 or 6 suits in my collection, so I'll be wearing a different one than the last time. So I will be wearing a suit, and I look forward to it.
I think this just turned into a commercial for Moores or something.
You know what? Moores used to sponsor me. I have 2 sponsored suits from Moores. They don't fit anymore because I was at 55. It was a 3-piece suit, and I can't remember what the other one was, but yeah, I tried to try them on. So they fit. My first fight when I moved up to 170, the 3-piece barely fit. But then my second fight, it was like, nope, this is too tight. Then now they're just I've already donated them or given them away because they don't fit anymore. But yeah, it was good to have a suit sponsor, because it's like $2,000 that I wasn't paying, and I was looking fucking sharp as fuck, and they were tailor made too.
Well, Jesse, man, I'm excited to see the suit of choice for Biloxi. But thank you so much, my friend, for talking to me tonight. And can't wait.
You're gonna like it. You're really gonna like it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. High expectations. Well, that's it for us tonight. That is the Body Snatcher, Mr. Jesse Ronson. I'm the Fight Dr. Carl Prusa. Thanks for watching, my friend.
Thanks for calling, man. Appreciate it.